Video 6, how ableism drives violence. There are two main drivers of violence: gender inequality and ableism. In a previous video, we talked about gender inequality, so in this episode, we'll define ableism, how it drives violence against women and girls with disabilities, and some actions we can take to stop it happening. What is ableism? Ableism is any unfair or negative thought or behaviour that treats people with disabilities as inferior compared to people without disabilities. This leads to unfair treatment and discrimination and limits the rights and choices of people with disabilities. There are 4 types of ableism that contribute to violence against women and girls with disabilities. They happen in all parts of society and can combine to make things worse and exclude people with disabilities. First, negative stereotypes. This is when others think of people with disabilities as helpless, dangerous, incapable, or in need of protection, or even sexless and genderless. This can lead to violence, like exclusion from things like school or work, or controlling what they can and can't do with their body. Second, normalising violence, disrespect, and discrimination. Because of ableism, people might think it's okay to mistreat women and girls with disability because they're seen as vulnerable or a burden, or they might ignore their experiences altogether and rename violence as carer burnout or just a joke. Third, controlling decision-making and limiting independence. Many laws and policies take away the rights of people with disabilities to make their own choices, leaving them dependent on others like carers, guardians, and even policymakers. Making your own choices is a human right. If women with disabilities are not allowed to make choices for themselves, their basic human rights cannot be met. Lastly, social segregation and exclusion. People with disabilities often face barriers that keep them from fully participating in society, like not having ramps for wheelchairs or separating people with disabilities from meeting, living, or working with others. This isolation can make them more vulnerable to violence and abuse. Ableism creates barriers for women and girls with disabilities, which can make them seem less visible in society. These types of ableism make it easier for people who use violence to target women and girls with disabilities, as they can be seen as vulnerable and less able to report violence. How to prevent ableism. So, what can we do to challenge ableism? Here's a few ideas to get you started. Raise up the voices and needs of women and girls with disabilities. Make sure our workplaces and communities are inclusive and accessible. Learn and share what we know about the kinds of violence they face. And speak up against violence and discrimination when we see it in our laws, workplaces, and socially. To prevent ableism in our laws and the places we work, learn, and live, we need to change how we think about disability.